Nature Studies, everyone. My name's Jake. Today, we have an exciting lesson planned because we'll be talking about two incredible critters that can be found right here in Wisconsin and in many other places all over North America. Have any of you ever seen a dog before? Today, we'll be talking about two of the wild cousins of dogs. Can any of you guess who they are? I'll give you a hint. Any guesses? Let's go find out if you were right. Today we'll be talking about wolves and coyotes. I'm sure many of you have heard of wolves and coyotes before, or maybe even seen some in person. Today, we'll be learning about how they're related to our friends the domestic dogs. I'll teach you how to tell the difference between wolves and coyotes. We'll discuss how wolves and coyotes have similar traits, but are also very unique. I'll show you how coyotes and wolves have moved around to different areas because of humans. And finally, we'll learn what's going on with wolves and coyotes here in Wisconsin. Let's get started by looking at their family tree. Oh no, the family tree isn't finished. I'm going to need your help to help me complete the family tree for dogs, coyotes, and wolves. I want you to draw a tree just like this one and try to figure out who goes where. Now, out of the three species of coyotes, dogs, and wolves, I want you to think of which two are more closely related and which one is least like the other two. Now we have three branches, one on the top and two on the bottom. The two on the bottom are for the species that are more closely related to each other, and the one on the top is the one that split off from their family tree a little bit sooner. You can pause the video if you like to give yourself a little bit more time to finish your family tree. All right, let's see how you did. So, as you can see, we have the coyote up on the top, the gray wolf in the middle, and the dog on the bottom. So, what this means is that the coyote split off from the gray wolf and dogs around 2 million years ago. And gray wolves and dogs split apart from each other around 40,000 years ago. So, gray wolves and dogs are the most closely related, and their close cousin is the coyote. These are all members of the canine family. The canines are carnivores or meat eaters that are dog-like or have dog-like traits. Let's see who else is in their family. You can see here that their extended family includes a lot of different kinds of wolves and wild dogs, but their family is even bigger than this. Wow, that's a big family tree. I'm not sure if you can see really well on the bottom, but the bottom of their family tree even includes foxes. So we have the dogs up here, more wild dogs, and the foxes on the bottom. That's one big family of canines. The canine family includes all dogs, wolves, and foxes, just like the feline family includes all the cats. Now that we have a better idea of how dogs, wolves, and coyotes are all related, let's talk about how you can tell them all apart. Wolves and coyotes can look very similar. How can you tell the difference between wolves and coyotes? Can you think of one or two traits you can use to tell them apart? What do you think this one is? Oh, looks like it's coyote. What's that one look like to you? Oh, turns out it was a wolf. Ooh, this one looks pretty cool. What do you think it is? Another wolf. What do you think this one is? This one's a coyote. What's this one look like to you? It's a wolf. What do you think this one is? This one's a coyote. Ooh, this one looks kind of angry. What do you think it is? Another coyote. What do you think this one is? Yep, this one's a domestic dog. This breed is a bloodhound. How did you do? Were you able to identify them all correctly? Domestic dogs can come in all shapes and sizes, so most of them are pretty easy to tell apart from their wild cousins. Because wolves and coyotes are the ones that are tough to tell apart, I'm going to show you a few of the ways that you can tell the difference between these two wild canines. One of the ways you can tell them apart is that coyotes are usually quite a bit smaller than wolves. From nose to tail, wolves are about a couple feet longer than coyotes. They're a little bit taller at the shoulder, and they're usually thicker, and wolves can be around 50 to 100 pounds heavier than coyotes. Wolf pups, or young wolves, can sometimes be the same size as coyotes, so they can be really difficult to tell apart. Another great feature to look at to tell them apart is the face. Can you tell how their faces look different? Coyotes' faces are usually more slender and pointy looking, whereas wolves have thicker snouts and more of a blocky appearance. If you look at their noses, you can also see that wolves have a larger nose pad than coyotes. Another great way to tell the difference between them is by looking at their ears. How do their ears look different to you? Coyotes' ears are usually taller and more pointy, whereas wolves' ears are usually shorter and more rounded. In these pictures, you can also see another way to tell them apart, their fur color. Coyotes' fur can range anywhere from grayish to brownish to even reddish brown. Wolves can also be a grayish color that's either mostly or all black. Wolves farther north can sometimes be cream colored or all white. Now that you know a few of the ways to tell them apart, what do you think this one is? This is a wolf. What told you that? For me, I can see the short rounded ears and a wide snout. What does this one look like to you? That's right, it's a coyote. How did you know? For me, it looks like this one has a lot more of a narrow face than the wolf in the last picture. What do you think this one is? It's a wolf. How could you tell? This one's face looks a little bit wider. What do you think this is? Wow, it's another wolf. Its fur does look a little bit brownish, but you can tell it's a wolf because it has a really wide looking face. What do you think this is? It's a coyote. How could you tell? It looks like it has really tall pointed ears and a narrow face. Wow, what's this one? That's right, it's a domestic dog. This breed is called the German Shepherd. What do you think this is? It's a coyote. What traits did you look at? What do you think this is? That's right, it's a wolf. How could you tell? How'd you do this time? Were you able to tell the difference now that you knew what to look out for? What traits did you use to tell the difference between the wolves and the coyotes? Now that you're all experts on telling the difference between wolves and coyotes based on how they look, let's talk about some of the other ways they're different. Let's go. Although wolves and coyotes have their own unique traits, they both have one thing in common. They love to howl at night. Wow, that sounded close. Many people think wolves and coyotes are howling at the moon, but they're actually calling out to their family members. Because wolves and coyotes are nocturnal, meaning they're mostly active at night, they call out using howls and yips to meet up with each other so they can go out hunting. Or they call out and other wolves and coyotes will reply, letting them know where everybody is. Let's see if you can tell the difference between wolves and coyotes by their howls. All right, what one do you think this is? Hmm, how about this one? So, any guesses? Which one was which? This one's the coyote. Did you guess right? The coyote has more of a high-pitched howl with more yips and yaps mixed in. Coyote's scientific name, Canis latrans, actually means barking dog. I can kind of hear that. Here's the wolf's howl. The wolf has a lower pitched howl with more barks mixed in. Now that you've heard both types of howls, let's try to make our own coyote and wolf howls. Here, I'll start with the wolf. Eh, I don't know. What do you think? Let's hear yours. All right, nice. Okay, here, I'll try my coyote howl. I still need a lot of practice. How about you? Holy cow, you're pretty good at that. So, coyotes and wolves look different. They also sound different. What else can you think of that might be different about them? The biggest thing that I can think of that's different about them is what they eat. What do you think wolves eat? What do you think coyotes eat? The main thing they both like to eat is meat, but coyotes are way less picky eaters. Wolves are strictly carnivores, meaning they mainly eat meat. They love eating large, hoofed animals like the one standing behind me, which includes deer, elk, and moose. Wolves will also eat smaller animals like beavers, small mammals, even coyotes, and sometimes birds. They'll also eat carrion, which is a fancy word for meat off of a dead animal. Coyotes also eat meat, but because of their smaller size, They mostly eat small mammals and rodents, or whatever they can get, which includes carrion, sometimes deer, and sometimes even people's pets. Like I mentioned earlier, coyotes aren't very picky eaters. They're actually omnivores, which means they can eat meat and other stuff like plants, just like us. So, this means coyotes can eat fruits, vegetables, grasses, insects, fish, sometimes garbage, and even pet food if people leave it out. This brings me to the next main difference between these two wild canines. Coyotes aren't bothered by people as much as wolves are. In the past, and even today, people have been afraid of wolves, either because they think the wolves are going to harm them or their farm animals. Wolves have been hunted a lot, so wolves have learned to stay away from people. So, looking at this map, what can you see? In the lighter colored areas, this is where wolves used to live. They used to live almost across all of North America, but as settlers moved into North America, we forced the wolves to move farther north because, like I mentioned, we didn't want them eating our farm animals. Although this isn't very good for the wolves, this did have a benefit for our friends the coyotes. Because coyotes are smaller than wolves, and like I mentioned, wolves can even eat coyotes, they usually would stay out of wolf territory. But as we pushed the wolves farther north, this gave the coyote a chance to spread out. Coyotes aren't as bothered by humans as wolves are, and humans usually leave them be if they aren't that much of a danger to their animals. So, coyotes have spread to every state in the United States except Hawaii. The main reason coyotes are able to live in all these habitats is because coyotes are incredibly adaptable. Some have even called them the kings of adaptation. Coyotes used to mainly live in the prairies, but as the wolves all moved farther north, now the coyotes can happily live in prairies, meadows, forests, swamps, suburban areas, and even urban areas. Coyotes have been found living in Chicago and in Central Park in New York City. Probably a few of the reasons for this is because coyotes can eat pretty much anything, they're small and sneaky, and they're incredibly smart. Unfortunately, this has caused some issues with people who don't want coyotes coming into their yards. Because coyotes are so good at surviving, many people see them as a nuisance and are worried that coyotes will eat their pets or even come after their small children. It is legal for you to trap or hunt coyotes year-round on your property here in Wisconsin. But if you don't want coyotes coming around your house, the best thing you can do is reduce the things they'll be looking for. This means keeping your trash picked up, not leaving pet food outside, and keeping rodent and small mammal habitat to a minimum in your yard. If you're worried about seeing coyotes in your neighborhood, you can report them to the DNR. Keep in mind that coyotes are more afraid of us than we are of them. I mentioned that in the past, people didn't really like wolves. Well, the first people who lived in Wisconsin, the Native Americans or First Nations people, lived in peace with wolves and respected wolves for their hunting abilities. European settlers were the ones that didn't like wolves because wolves preyed on their farm animals. Eventually, the state government created programs to remove the wolves. From 1860 to 1957, there was a bounty placed on wolves. In 1957, wolves were listed as a protected species, and by 1960, they were considered extinct in the state of Wisconsin. Wolves were never reintroduced to the state by the DNR. They came back on their own from Minnesota and up north. The DNR kept a close watch on the wolf population in the state, and they've been protected so that their numbers have slowly continued to rise. Wolves are currently still listed as a protected endangered species, but because populations are higher, the DNR and many people are proposing to have the protections removed so that wolves can be managed and hunted again. The best thing you can do if you see any wolves near where you live is to report them to the DNR so they can be protected from poachers. I had a lot of fun today learning about these wild canines, the coyote and the wolf. They have many things in common, but also they have many unique traits that make each of them super cool in their own way. Today, we learned how to tell the difference between wolves and coyotes. We practiced how to howl like each of them. We learned what they both like to eat. We discussed where they live and how coyotes are masters of survival. And we talked about what's going on with each of them in Wisconsin today. What was your favorite thing we learned today? I think mine was how to tell the difference between wolves and coyotes. I'll include links to some great resources at the end of this video so you can learn more about wolves and coyotes on your own. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on Nature Studies.